We are here today at the Japanese American Memorial to the internment camps that were established during World War II. President Roosevelt issued Executive Order 9066, which forced all Americans of Japanese descent into these American concentration camps. And we have on the walls here the various camps that were established. And they were put in some of the most desolate, isolated, god-awful places you can imagine, in the desert, in the swamps. They built this memorial, about 20 years ago or so.
It's a recognition of something terrible that our country did. But the monument is a tribute to Japanese American patriotism. And the statements you see on the wall are not bitter, but they talk about we are Americans and we love our country. I think that touches me a lot.
Unfortunately, these sort of sentiments continue to this day, and we see it, right? We see it in terms of state laws that are being passed because of the color of their skin, where they come from. We're going to withhold these basic fundamental opportunities. And that's why I think it's important to visit a place like this, but also why we exist at AREAA.
I truly believe that the most powerful thing that AREAA has done over the last 20 years is in the area of advocacy. I think the No Other campaign really put a cap on it, and it really resonates to our membership.
When we interviewed our members, including senior leadership, the vast majority of us didn't even know we weren't in the picture.
As a community, I think that's something that we have been battling, right? We're this perpetual foreigner. And so to actually have a category in the quarterly census report is quite historic. No other organization, no other Asian American organization looked at this until AREAA, until our leadership at that time in 2015 said, you know, it's about time that we actually have our own standalone category because we need to be recognized as a community. I mean, if you're not recognized, then you don't exist.
I saw so many AREAA leaders come together very quickly with a singular voice on an issue that was very important to them. And I really hadn't seen that before in my lifetime. For the census to actually recognize us was certainly a big win for AREAA, and certainly opened a lot of eyes to people that were not familiar with AREAA.
Having that campaign really made everybody, all the chapters, all the leaders, creating that impact really made a difference in us, within AREAA, within people's lives.
And it galvanized people to say that we need to stand up more and say we are here. So that No Other campaign is one of our highlight successes, but why it happened, and I think what's growing from it, is even more exciting for me.
And I think that was probably the start of the trajectory of a lot of the advocacy wins of the organization.
Each and every year, AREAA seems to do something that really impresses me and wants me to do more.
AREAA's perspective as it relates to housing policy has been immensely important in sort of advancing the broader narrative.
AREAA is the vessel, the channel that allow us to make a difference in our community. We are more than just realtors. We are community leaders. We are here making an impact.
Back in 2006, if you came here to DC and you tried to explain who the Asian Real Estate Association of America, AREAA, was, nobody had any familiarity. Fast forward to 2015, we were involved and we were representing in the White House, stepping into the West Wing for a meeting around mortgage reform representing AREAA. That was a really proud moment.
You talk to a member of Congress, they probably have heard of AREAA because they've met with the chapters, and so I don't think there's any CAPAC member, the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus members, who don't know who AREAA is, because you've made your presence known when you come to Washington every year for the policy summit, for the Hill meetings, and just being who you are and the issues that you advocate for.
AREAA have been advocating for alternative credit for our community for so many years. But we have not stopped because nobody listened. We continue, and then at the end of the day, someone listened and someone helped us together and make the change. So now our community can make use of the alternative credit into mortgage and into homes.
When SB 147, come out to Texas, we work with every other organization, have over 140 people go to the state Capitol Senate office to try to stop this bill, and they said they never seen that in the history of Texas. We are making history here.
So it's policy wins like that that really opens the door for our community members to become homeowners, right? So those are, I think, the milestones that will have a lifelong effect when it comes to the home buying process.
And if you think about what has transpired through the pandemic and the discrimination that has occurred specifically to the AAPI community and specifically in the housing sector, it just, reiterated the importance of the mission.
I just feel like your mission, I think, number one, but also that you are willing to do the work. You're willing to make sacrifices, come to DC, put your lives on hold to come here to advocate for policy, and really your record of success.
AREAA's track record around just advocating for the community as it relates to home ownership and housing policy, is second to none. We know that there's more work to be done. We know that Congress, while they're coming around to understanding the importance of diversity and home ownership, we have to keep that steady drumbeat up.
It is very appropriate that on the 20th year, we're actually here.
Yeah.
Because it speaks to why we exist, to make sure that what happened, that this doesn't happen again.
My dad actually was in the Gila Bend camp, and my mom was in Manzanar. And I started to see evidence where we were starting to forget about that important part of history. And it was always my fear that, if we didn't learn that lesson, that we might repeat ourselves. So anytime I do anything on behalf of AREAA, I always think of my father and getting to hear their stories and the struggle that they went through, all the sacrifices they did to give me a fighting chance at the American dream.
When my mom encouraged me to join real estate, she also added to me one goal and one dream that she had for my life, which was to help the Filipino community. It was her ultimate dream.
When I do something good, on behalf of AREAA, the one person that comes to mind who still to this very day is my dad. He was a huge community leader. When he passed,
my story started when my mother was finally given the Asian mom stamp of approval that I'd made it. And close to her deathbed, she goes, "Tom, I'm very proud of you. That's the first time I ever heard of her say that." And she goes, "Would you do something for the rest of your life for me?" I said, "Of course, Mom." She goes, "For the rest of your life, would you strive to help at least 100 other people become personally and financially free like the way you have achieved?" And I didn't know it was a few weeks later that she'd passed. And then a few months later, I found AREAA.
So for me to find AREAA and to have the opportunity to both succeed in real estate and to help my mom's dream for me, helping the Filipino community come true, it was a fulfillment that I don't know how I would have reached any other way.
It was like a celebrity funeral because we had friends and family all over that said, your dad helped sponsor or helped fill out the paperwork to be able to sponsor family members from Vietnam to reunite with us. And so a lot of the things that I do in terms of community support, it's because of him.
So whenever I do something good on behalf of AREAA, I always think of my mom.
I think about my mom.
When I do something good for AREAA, I think about my 14-year-old daughter, Izzy, and her generation.
The people that I always think about are my two daughters, because I wanted to give them the opportunity that I did not have when I came to the United States.
My mom left China when I was 2 years old, and she set off to America by herself. And then my dad went a few months afterwards.
I think about the journey that she has had to endure being an immigrant.
My parents both came to the United States to get their PhDs in civil engineering, and they didn't have money to pay for the tuition, so they had to go wherever they could get a scholarship. So my mother ended up at the University of Pittsburgh. My dad ended up at the University of Oklahoma. So not only were they in a country that they had never set foot in with, no savings, no friends or family, but they had to do a long distance relationship from each other and also with me as well.
But not just my two daughters. I look at other people's daughters. I look at other people's parents, brothers, sister.
I sit there and I think about how much I want for my 5-month-old to not have to worry about things that we're worrying about today.
As Americans mark the 60th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, yesterday's fatal shooting of 3 black people by a white gunman in Jacksonville, Florida, is a brutal reminder that race-based hate is still among us.
In 2021, hate crimes rose to the highest level since the government began tracking them 3 decades ago.
The Asian American community has been faced with effectively 2 pandemics. The first is the COVID-19 pandemic, but the second pandemic that we have faced is also a virus. It's a virus of racism that we have faced.
In the years since that attack, in some of America's largest cities, hate crimes have surged, a reminder that there is still a lot of work ahead.
It's June 25th, 2023. My wife Betty and I are in San Francisco celebrating Pride by marching in San Francisco's Pride Parade. One of the most touching photographs that I saw was this military general was giving the American flag to the family while they were in the prison camp because their son had died. Here he was in Europe fighting the war against the Germans, fighting for democracy, and his parents are interned in an American prison.
Yeah, for doing nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
Just for being Japanese.
We never thought that when we form these organizations it grows so fast. And of course, it attracts so many leaders, a lot of leaders, they just feel that, it's time for them not only to create something, unite together, and then also pass this torch to the younger generation.
I was fortunate enough to have my daughter Chloe and my daughter Olivia to help AREAA launch AREAA Youth several years ago. And for them to be able to be inspired by all the good work that we do, and that they also can feel like they can make a difference, that the younger generation is our future.
It lets me feel quite comfortable and at peace knowing that there's a younger generation that's coming along and they possess the same level of passion and desire to leave their mark, to leave their legacy, and not just their own legacy, but a legacy trail for others to follow.
The kids see you doing something good, something not about yourself, but for others. It makes them do the same.
My name is Scott Okamoto. I am an attorney in private practice here in San Francisco. I practice real estate law. When I attend anything related to AREAA, it's always, oh, are you related to Alan? But he always has a very, sly, self-deprecating sense of humor. And he'll always say, oh no, I'm Scott's dad.
At home, our dad would be very quiet, soft-spoken, and then we'd show up at these events where everyone would be, trying to talk to him, they'd introduce themselves to him, and then they'd start talking to us. and say, oh, you're Jim Park's kids, and we've heard so much about you. And it was a bit confusing, I'd say, growing up.
Very exciting to be here in solidarity with the community as a whole, but really personally to celebrate the wonder and pride my wife and I have in our son, Gerald, and many, many other friends and relatives who are LGBTQ.
As a young kid, I remember, of course, my dad often going to events, and then we would start to go to events, me and my siblings. As I understood more about the work my dad did, advocating on behalf of the Asian American community, those were values that I felt were also present in the way that him and my mother raised me and my siblings.
Anyways, he's always put me in a position to do my best and to use the talents that he's given me and I've tried to cultivate in order to make the best of what I have.
I work on environmental justice issues, and the parts of my work that feel particularly meaningful have to do with, the opportunities I get to elevate and amplify the voices of people from across the country who have been disenfranchised, who are otherwise not seen or heard by, people in power, by our government.
The thing that means the most to me, and what pride is really being happy with yourself. And for us, pride is being happy for you in everything you are. Okay, we love you. Thank you guys for everything. We'll see you in Toronto. Bye-bye.
Love you.
Along the way, I found issues that I was interested in and somewhat good at. And right now, one of my passions with respect to the real estate industry is diversity, equity, and inclusion and fair housing. I mean, those are, I think, two of the significant issues of our age. And I think that there's a ton of work to be done, and we need people who are willing to do that work. And I am, and part of the reason that it does interest me is because I got that straight from my dad, because he's been involved with those issues both at a local and state and national level for a very, very long time.
In many ways, what we're about is not only about just this asset called a house, but it's really about changing lives, right? And that's why you see the theme, the mission of this organization shifting.
The theme of AREAA right now is changing lives through real estate, because we know in our hearts, deep in our hearts, from what I've seen as a real estate practitioner for 40 years, and from my personal life and friends, you get that home. Then what it does is it gives you the chance to really become deeper in the fabric of this country.
That's the other thing that's, I think, very gratifying in terms of seeing our members, our practitioners, opening these doors to generational wealth. But it also opens doors to a sense of belonging in this country that is so powerful.
We've made great strides. We've had an amazing Fair Housing Summit. We've bought our own building. We've added language support to the supplemental, the loan applications to AREAA. We have great relationships with Congress and with FHFA and HUD, and we've done great things as an association over the past 20 years, but it really comes down to the members.
AREAA actually brought me home, right? Literally brought me home because San Diego's home, but brought me home because I'm now serving the community that really is home for me.
Because I'm an immigrant, I don't have relatives here in San Francisco Bay Area. I come here by myself. So within AREAA, I met a lot of like-minded friends. So actually, my family grew because of AREAA.
Before AREAA, I really truly felt like I was on an island. I started in real estate at 18. As a young Filipino woman, there weren't really top producers, there weren't really change makers that looked like me.
As an Asian American, it is so important to find a place where we have a sense of belonging.
What AREAA has done for me is it has created a strong kinship and friendship, all across the country.
You literally have family of over 18,000 family members across the nation, and that's something really huge.
Every national convention, every summit is a family reunion, and I get so excited just to see my friends again.
I was like, oh, I found my tribe. Like, this is what I've been looking for, because I'm based in Alabama. I'm one of the few minority in my current county that practice real estate. And so I didn't know what success looked like for a person like me, and AREAA helped me find that.
I think AREAA is probably the only trade organization see the opportunity. We should unite it, and we should help each other.
We learn from each other, we mentor each other, we guide each other personally and in real estate.
I remember being part of a meeting in San Francisco, and oh, by the way, Hurricane Sandy occurred. So I was stuck in San Francisco for probably a good 10 days. And John Wong and Betty and so many others, I mean, they treated me like I was, part of their family, and we care for one another. And that's, to me, a very meaningful relationship, and one, frankly, that you don't find too often.
If you're watching out there, come check us out. Come meet with your local leaders. Come to an event. Come to a national event. When you get here, the feeling, the vibe, the spirit of collaboration, support is so hard to explain in a video. I promise you, when you get here, you're going to find a family. You're going to find a sense of belonging, maybe a deeper meaning into why it is that we exist.
To all of you, thank you for being a part of the journey. Thank you for pushing. Thank you for all that you do, really, to support each other.
So now we have thousands of members, 44 chapters across the United States. AREAA is truly the voice of the Asian real estate practitioner. And it's all because of tremendous people like you, all the leaders, all of our members, dedicated to the mission of the Asian Real Estate Association in America. So I thank you.
I think about my parents and their struggles when they first came to this country. For them, a home symbolized more than a roof over their heads. It represented a sense of belonging and a path to the American dream. As we celebrate 20 years of achievements at AREAA, I am in awe of what the organization has accomplished. Yet with the proliferation of laws in certain states that prohibit the purchase of homes for Chinese and other nationalities who came to America to work, study, and contribute back, I am more determined than ever to ensure that AREAA's mission and what we fight for every day is in the hearts and minds of our members. Yes, we have come a long way, but our fight is not over, and the work to ensure that everyone's lives can be changed through real estate cannot be taken for granted.